All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about an interesting free speech case at a school in San Diego County. This was just reported on over the weekend in the newspaper, and it illustrates some interesting problems with free speech issues in schools. My name's Alex Kuhlman. I'm an attorney here in San Diego, and I work on civil rights cases, sometimes involving First Amendment issues, although typically I tend to focus more on policing and jails and prisons, but schools are an interesting area because of the complicated law around First Amendment issues there. If you like this kind of stuff, subscribe and so forth. I'm hoping to make more of these videos. This case emerges from a place called Canyon Crest Academy up in the North County of San Diego in a relatively well-off area. And essentially what happened was two students there looked into the finances of a foundation that is intended to support robotics and other activities for students at the school, and they found some sort of unusual aspects of the bookkeeping there. One thing they found was that a category of other expenses had ballooned over the years to many hundreds of thousands of dollars without seeming to correspond to actual expenses. And another thing they noted was that the director of this foundation, which had at one point been an unpaid position, was now getting more than 150 grand per year, and that director has since stepped down. Now, it's impossible to know if the students are really onto something and there's some kind of wrongdoing going on there, or if they just don't understand the numbers. But the interesting thing about what's happened is that the school, perhaps predictably, has pushed back really hard against the students themselves. And there's been zero acknowledgement of the idea that student journalism is valuable, even if it might ruffle a few feathers. Student journalism is valuable, and I don't know, who needs to say that, but it is important. And the most important aspect of it actually is speaking truth to power. And sometimes that involves talking about stuff that's actually going on at the administrative level at a school or among the higher ups at a school. But it's precisely in those situations, at least in my experience, where schools cave on the idea that student journalism has any value. They love it as long as it's printing puff pieces about the football team. They can't stand it when student journalists actually write about something substantive, where there might actually be some potential for embarrassment. But First Amendment regulation of speech at school is a complicated area. As far as the newspaper reports, these students haven't been disciplined, but the principal of the school really did trash the students in the media, calling them irresponsible and totally off base. The law around this kind of stuff, and I'm just going to paraphrase, says that when there's content put out on an independent website, not at the school, but outside of school, students can be disciplined for what they express if it creates the potential for real disruption on campus, or if it unfairly singles people out on campus. However, there's been some cases, like a couple years ago, there was a cheerleader who posted something along the lines of, "Fuck cheer, fuck everything," and she put that on her social media, and the US Supreme Court actually said, well, that might be negative, that might be adolescent in tone, but that's not in itself a reason to discipline this student, because she does have free speech, at least to an extent. And here, similarly, what the students are writing about in this report might be controversial, but it's not disruptive simply to talk about the finances of this foundation. So hopefully these guys will go on to do more interesting investigations and go on to college and pursue stuff that allows them to use their talents, and hopefully somebody will recognize that what they've done here is a valuable thing, even if people find it uncomfortable.